Hi Group 2, I am recording your feedback video for your group's grant proposal presentation draft, and I've got it pulled up here on my screen as you can see, and I also have your CFP that your group chose on NASA seeking proposals for visionary aerospace concepts. So this is a high concept CFP. It's really interesting, so I thought this was a cool CFP to choose. Not the easiest in terms of kind of coming up with clients and an objective, and that's going to be my main, probably will constitute my main feedback for this group. I've already kind of briefly gone through the presentation. I'm going to go through it in more depth in this feedback video, but my overall note was specificity, and you've chosen a good client, so I am unpicarding your group, so round of applause for that. But you chose a good client, which is this BWX Technologies, so that's awesome. And so what I'm going to focus on really quickly first is just the grant. The grant is interesting because, like I said, it's high concept, so it's looking for, as its title suggests, this Innovative Advanced Concepts program. It's focusing on early studies of visionary concepts that address NASA's or the nation's goals, but also offer radically different approaches or innovations to enable new missions or greatly enhance previous ones. And then the program's concepts are often high risk or far term or long term, but we're setting now to inform NASA's investments in planning. So it's a great grant because it's NASA really looking to say, like, okay, even though this proposal might be about something that is potentially not technically or technologically able to be done for like 10 or 20 years, we know based on this funding that we gave to this company and the results they provided that this would be a worthwhile investment, or oh no, their project blundered and we know that we don't want to put money into that. So it's really NASA kind of figuring out what are some good ideas that in terms of where they want to be investing money. And you have a cool CFP. So CFPs usually don't have this, but it actually has like examples of previous accepted proposals. So they give this example of the one for reprogramming microorganisms that could use the Martian environment to recycle and print electronics, and this 2D spacecraft with ultra-thin subsystems that may wrap around space debris to enable deorbiting. Keyword here, specific. Those are very, very specific. And that's what that's what NASA is going to be looking for if they were looking at any grant proposals, right? They want a clear idea of what the concept is specific to NASA's or the nation's goals, but offering radically different approaches. So they're really looking for this high visionary, very innovative, world is your oyster type of thing, so long as it aligns with the missions of NASA and the missions of the nation. So as long as it's not like bomb the earth. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what wouldn't be in NASA's mission. Sorry, that is an email you don't want to see because it's boring. Okay. But going to your grant proposal draft, so nuclear thermal propulsion for deep space travel, propulsion. I always have a problem saying that word. This is great. You have the link here. You have presented by the client. Fantastic. So from the title, I have an idea about what this is going to be, this on TV for deep space travel. My initial question as the reader, and possibly as somebody who does not have extensive or even a little bit of knowledge about this, is that what does deep space travel currently look like? Like, I know there's some deep space travel, I think, but, and I'm sure NASA knows more about this than I do, but so how I'm reading through this presentation is, how visionary is it? Because that is NASA's main goal, is they want pie in the sky, get as creative as you can, super crazy, high concept, innovative ideas, and they even have this kind of timeline for funding based on how successful they were. And I think that's actually smart of them, because they are asking for these high concept, high visionary proposals. They have these different phases for awarding of monies, right? So they have phase ones. You can get up to $125,000 for up to 9 months to support the kind of initial beginnings of this concept. And if that is successful, then you can submit another grant proposal, yay, and apply for phase 2 awards valued at, far more, $500,000 for up to 2 additional years of concept development. The interpretation for that is a little bit vague, because I don't know if the $500,000 is, I think it's total. Like, because sometimes what CFPs will have is you can get like this amount for this year and then the same amount for the following year. But I think what they don't mean like $500,000 for year 1, $500,000 for year 2. I think they mean $500,000 in general for these 2 additional years of concept development. So, interesting CFP for sure. So let's dive in, shall we? Okay, so you have your table of contents, you've got your intro, you have about the client, your rationale, the plan of work, resources, budget, and conclusion. I'm not going to say anything about that yet, because sometimes we come back to those things after we've talked about other things. So my first reaction to your introduction was that it is too short. So right now you're talking about like the nation continuing to seek groundbreaking technology and innovation that will lead to man's survival in space. That's a little bit specific, but not quite specific enough. Our team has developed several innovative ideas. What are they? We want to know in the intro. That will help improve space travel and increase the reach of mankind. So here are my questions about the introduction. I'm also trying to read this as much as possible like I'm NASA. So, and really my position on that is, I'm a very experienced reader, and I've read a lot of grant proposals and have done a lot of grant writing myself, and I also have a clear understanding of what NASA wants in their CFP. So I'm reading as NASA and also as a grant writer, and I am also going to respond in part as NASA. But if I were NASA, there seems to be 2 things that are separate here. So the first is this idea of off-planet colonization. When you say man's survival in space, that leads me to the concept of colonizing other space objects. I don't know what to call them. Moons, planets. I don't know if they're considered the same thing. But off-planet colonization, I think, is just the umbrella term for that. So there's that concept, and then there's this concept of space travel, so which is tied to your title, where you talk about the NCP and deep space travel. So I don't know if they are connected. I'm sure they are in some context. If they're connected in this context for this grant proposal, it's not clear how they're connected. And so for the introduction, you really want to start off, or I would recommend starting off with, because these are all just suggestions. That's all that feedback is. You can get feedback and say, I don't want it. But I would recommend starting off with something like, you want to hit what NASA wants, right? This concept of NASA, space exploration, and how do they identify it as? I might even qualify it as, innovation in aerospace research. I think that might be it, or cosmological research. I think like one of those things. I'm trying to not necessarily just use their name, but starting off with something that hits the CFP right away and the issue. And the interesting thing about the CFP is they're not identifying an issue. So, like for example, the feedback video that I made before this is about, rehabilitating veterans' primary residences to be adaptive housing, right? So that disabled veterans have accessible homes. So that's a clear problem, whereas NASA is saying, we don't have a problem. We just want to fund people to think really wide, like largely. But that's still rooted in implicitly in this idea that NASA is looking for innovative, high concept innovations that will potentially lead the next wave or the next movement in aerospace technology. So you might start off with something like that, and then you want to go right away into your client, right? So then you would talk about the BWXT technologies, right? At BWX Technologies, this is what we or they, depending on how you position yourselves, I'll just say they for now, BWXT, I'll probably get that wrong a few times, technologies does blah, 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 blah. This grant-funded opportunity aligns with our company's mission, and that we are driven not just by, creating, I'm just going to go make some stuff up, just creating aerospace technologies, but also engaging in visionary concepts that will lead to the next movement or lead to the next level of aerospace innovations. With this grant-funded opportunity, we will be able to do, or we hope to be able to demonstrate the long-term viability of several innovative ideas, such as that include blank, 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 or just blank, or however many of these quote-unquote several innovative ideas that you have. We need to know what they are. So what is it that BWXT Technologies is going to, or wants this money for, in order to work on this high concept, high visionary project that is also aligned with NASA and the nation's goal for, I'm presuming, space stuff. I don't know what else it's called. Space research, space, aerospace research, something along those lines. So you definitely want to bulk up the introduction. It's too short, it's too vague, and then you have this idea that it will help improve space travel and increase the reach of humankind. Sorry, I'm all about non-gendered language, rather than mankind. But it's not just because I'm a woman. But helping improve space travel and increasing the reach of humankind are a little bit, I don't want to say cliche, but they kind of are. I don't want to say it because it sounds rude and mean, but they're cliche. They just are. It's kind of it's like a go-to thing, like, oh, NASA, why are you? And that's why a lot of people question NASA, and the NASA program eventually got shut down, right? Is because they kind of just, their whole goal was increasing the reach of mankind, and it was like, great, we don't want that, so enough people thought that it wasn't, the argument for NASA was not strong enough so that the government would no longer continue to fund shuttle launches. So they got, severely cut in their funding. So now they're focusing more on these trendier aerospace topics. NASA's focusing on these trendier aerospace topics, like, okay, we're not just going to launch a shuttle in the air to do whatever, go to the ISS, right? We're focusing on off-planet colonization, or I don't know, Martian stuff, right? So they're trying to, NASA's been in the process of re-envisioning themselves after that defunding issue to be aligned more with, I think, culturally what people want NASA to be, rather than improving space travel and increasing the reach of mankind, because a lot of people might not think that's strong enough of an argument. I don't think it's strong enough of an argument. If the government were like, we're going to spend $800 billion to improve space travel, I'd say, I don't know if I agree with that. That's a lot of money. And what's the benefits of improving space travel? Like, is there a place for me somewhere I can go? Is it going to be cheap for me to travel to this place? Like, so, and that's me not responding as NASA. That's me responding as, if the government were giving a lot of funding to a particular organization. So then you go into talking about the BWX technologies specifically, which I think is good. I think you need, and this is just for every slide, that's not like your cover slide and your TOC slide, your table of contents. You want to make sure you're integrating evidence on all of your slides. So what your goal here is on this slide is, and you're already starting to do it, but you need to be more persuasive about it, is how BWX Technologies is a high concept, high visionary company. So I'm guessing, and this is also because I've read and looked at a lot of stuff about aerospace technologies through teaching at Embry-Riddle. So I know there are companies that their goals, there are aerospace companies who have goals that are, we need to build the technology for this thing to happen, right? They don't necessarily have long-term, high-risk, visionary goals. They're just manufacturing things, even though they're aerospace related. But then you might have companies who are like doing those things, but also have an interest in being visionary and engaging in high concept aerospace ideas. Is BWX one of those companies? I'm not convinced from this current slide. So you tell me, or i.e. NASA, that they supply nuclear components and fuel to the U.S. government. I don't know what I need to know that. Is that important information for me to know when NASA put out a CFP about innovative advanced concepts for aerospace company? Also, there's no citations for any of these. You tell me, NASA, that this company has done R&D or has R&D labs that develop innovative nuclear technologies. Very vague. So I need to know why there, and also there's R&D, research and development, and then there's actual manufacturing. So those are different. So you might be more focused on R&D, which is they would be responsible for coming up with these high concept, high visionary ideas. But so you're saying that they develop innovative nuclear technologies, but I have yet no idea what that looks like. So what makes it innovative compared to other companies? What makes it new? What makes it high concept? What makes it align with the CFP from NASA? And then your last bullet point, they're working with NASA on the NTB project for deep space travel. Okay, I'm NASA. I might know that already. Maybe I'm someone reading this and I have no idea that that's actually a thing. So it's probably good to have that on there. But what I need convinced of here, again, is that idea of deep space travel. Because what I'm inferring, but it's not my job as NASA to infer because I'm NASA. So, and I have a lot of money to offer you. So what your goal is to be like, deep space travel is this high visionary concept, because my initial, again, after responding to your introductory slide, is deep space travel a high visionary innovative concept? Because I feel like it's happened before. So when you say deep space travel, like, what does that mean? So you might need to define it, and you might give examples of like, this is what has already happened or is happening with deep space travel. With this grant funding opportunity, BWXT will be able to exceed that by constructing whatever in order to do, extended deep space travel that will look like this, right? So it's almost like, here's what's been done, but here's what visionarily BWX Technologies wants to do. So, and we need that funding to be able to help create this technology. I'm guessing this nuclear thermal propulsion, which is some type of jet, I'm guessing, but I don't know for sure, right, in order to do this deep space travel. So more fleshing out about deep space travel needs to be done. Then you go into the rationale. I think the title of this slide just needs, the title of the slide is good because I know exactly what to expect. You're saying, okay, this is about this is rationale. I don't know if it's the rationale for BWX Tech or if it's the rationale for deep space travel and NCP, or if it's, so I don't know quite what the rationale is, the context of it. So I think you just need more information for the title up here. So we say BWX Technologies is seeking, you can just say seeks, that's a place where you have two verbs and you only need one, innovative concepts to develop new aerospace mission architectures in order to help enhance future aerospace missions with novel technology. It's all very vague. Innovative concepts is vague. Aerospace mission, new aerospace mission architectures, that's vague. And then enhance future aerospace missions with novel technology, that's also vague. So here's where I'm talking about where you need more specificity. So what innovative concepts, what makes them innovative? What are new aerospace mission architectures? So what are current aerospace mission architectures, and how are you envisioning that they will improve in the long term? Or what's your what would BWX Technologies' vision for new aerospace mission architectures to look like? And then same thing with that last part, the enhance future aerospace missions with novel technology. What novel technology? Is that different from the innovative concepts that you mentioned at the beginning? And how is any of this related to deep space travel, which is missing from the rationale? So this needs a lot more unpacking in terms of being much more specific, because I was NASA. If I were NASA, I would say this doesn't tell me anything. It gives me, vague language, Not quite sure what the rationale is. So it wouldn't be persuasive ultimately. Next slide, reason of proposal. I'm not sure what the difference between rationale and reason of proposal is. So here you have to increase efficiency and technology while fostering the ideas of BWX Technologies mission statement. That needs, this is possessive. You would have an apostrophe S there. Or you can just say BWXT's, T apostrophe S, mission statement. So here, and then I'm guessing you're quoting from the mission statement from that company, which is good. I think you should include their mission statement. I think NASA would want to know what it is. But this part, to increase efficiency and technology while fostering the ideas, again, that's that vague language. So efficiency of what or for what technology. Again, what I'm trying to do very concretely is think about how this language is aligning with the language in the CFP. So how is it a response, a direct response to the CFP? So it's missing that, the mission statement is good. It's vague, as all mission statements are. But, right, to reach for new heights and reveal the unknown so that what we do and learn will benefit all humankind, our team has the potential to see the mission statement realized. I'm not sure why there's multiple quotation marks there. But, again, that's a mission statement. Mission statements are meant to be short, they're vague, and they just give a general overview of something. But your goal here is to be much more specific about, and what I would add to this, because this feels very self-serving on behalf of BWXT or very navel-gazing, is you're missing the, this part here, the addressing of NASA's or the nation's goals. So you've talked about the reason of the proposal, but you might also want to connect that then to NASA or the nation. I don't know what the nation means. Is that like a government alignment or a cultural alignment? I don't know. I would just focus on NASA, because when you're getting into the nation, you're getting into much more muddier territory. So that would be something that you might want to add to this, is not just what the proposal, which needs to be more specific, how it is an extension of the client's mission, but also then how that's an extension of and an alignment with NASA's goal for these kind of advanced, innovative concepts. And I don't know what NASA's mission statement is. Maybe it changed to reflect that, or maybe it's just this particular program that they have. What's next? I don't know. So let's see. We will begin hiring additional employees based on their expertise, acquire equipment necessary to successfully complete researches. So my initial thing here when I read this is I have no idea what your project proposal is. You've told me things like those very vague things, but nothing's, and then you've given me the deep space travel. But things really need to be nailed down. So when you say hiring additional employees, it's okay, but for what? I still don't know what the project is or why the project is worth investing in. So, and then acquiring equipment necessary to successfully complete researches, tests, and experiments, sorry, that's my brother, of our aerospace mission ideas. But again, depending on what the proposal is recommending, what equipment do you need? We will create work schedules, itemize our ideas. I don't think work schedules needs to be on there at all. And I don't know what itemizing our ideas means at all. So just focusing on those first two bullet points, I would first do a slide on available resources. So what does BWXT already have available? So you've talked about labs. Do they have an R&D department? How many staff do they have? That type of thing. And then depending on what your actual proposal is, what are things that you need? What are resources needed? So if you're actually going to be hiring people, remember you only have $125,000 for 9 months. So if you're going to be hiring people, which I would recommend not doing, I would honestly, since that's a low amount, I would recommend you all pretending that you work at BWXT and give yourselves fake credentials. Like maybe you are physicists or you are aerospace engineers. I don't know, but you all have PhDs. But I would, because it's just such a small amount, I would say don't hire anybody. Position yourselves as already working at BWXT, and you will be leading this particular project within BWXT, and then focus that $125,000 on acquiring equipment, because that stuff is not going to be cheap, and you don't want that. It is $125,000, right? I'm not crazy. Yeah. And honestly, the equipment, I don't know, it depends on what it could, because so the 9 months is like supporting initial definition and analysis of their concepts. It's really the time where you're given more time to do research for your proposal. It's not build the equipment and send it into space, right? So it's not, you're not at that level yet. That might be the next level. But because these are high concept, these are not you're not necessarily building stuff. You're focusing more probably on prototypes, logistical things like outlining the infrastructure of what this project might look like if NASA were to adopt it. So you have the right idea in terms of researches, tests, and experiments, but that just needs fleshed out. And then what equipment do you need? Okay, and then who will benefit? I like this slide. The only slide I would add to it, and my one question is for this slide is, how is it different from this slide? Because I think what I was talking about in my feedback for this slide is very similar to what I would talk about here. So either I would get rid of this slide and keep this slide, and if you do that, the only thing I would do is have little blurbs after each one that says how they will benefit. And I'm guessing you're talking about, this is like the nation part, right? So how this project, this high concept theoretical project that BWX Technologies will undergo, will fulfill the desires of the governments wanting better aerospace stuff, right? Or something along that. I don't know what the government wants right now in terms of aerospace, so you might need to do a little research into that. Goal for this proposal. Again, it's feeling a little redundant at this point because you should already have addressed this stuff, but before you get to this point, and especially because you've already given us a what's next, which is an intimation that things like budget and timeline would be coming into play. And this is also just vague language, so I'm not sure this slide is necessary. Method of operation. So here you get a little bit more specific about what the actual work would look like, because you say we're going to be testing new technological ideas. Again, what are they? That will be applied to future space missions. No, they won't. You don't know that. It's only if NASA will adopt it. So that's what we would consider grandiose language. And again, real-world development of experimental technologies, I don't know what that means. Does that mean you would actually develop the technology? Because I don't know if you have the money for that, if you're only given $125,000. But this also just means more unpacking. It needs more specificity. And I think more information in general. And this might be, like, you have the timeline, so you might want to put that with the timeline or before the timeline. It's because it's not separated that much, but it is separated by the team capability slide. But this feels more like it goes with the timeline. So, and I would be specific about phase 1. So like during phase 1, this is what we would anticipate to happen in 9 months. And then your timeline would want to be the 9 months. I'm trying to, this probably needs to be a little bit bigger for the slide. But I always have issues reading these types of graphs or tables. Because, right, this is, I see 888. I don't see any 9 months. And then these are also months, but then you have some that are like 30, so they're more than a year, so that's over the phase 1. So anything over 9 would have to be readdressed. You can do like 2 different slides that would be for phase 1. I would really only focus on phase 1, which is the 9 months. You could in theory do like, this is what our timeline for phase 1 looks like, and here's if we were given the opportunity to get grant funding for phase 2, here's what that would look like in theory. But I wouldn't spend the time on doing that because you don't want to waste your energy into, because what you would do then is you would have to reapply for it anyways. It's not like you would just be awarded phase 2 funding. So you would just have to like redo all this stuff for phase 2. But yeah, not sure this is needed. It feels redundant. This needs more specificity, and I would put it more with the timeline. The timeline is going to need revised to fit that phase 1 timeline. Possible limiting factors. So current sharing of research. China is leading the race for quantum communications. How is that related to NTP and deep space travel? And do you mean China's not always happy to share research? That's what I'm inferring from this, but I'm not positive. And why is this a limiting factor? So I understand that China is leading the race for quantum communications. So my concern is this a space race? According to NASA, maybe somewhere there is like NASA doesn't seem to be in any hurry though. They seem to be looking for just innovative ideas. So I'm not sure how much of a space race this is. And then creating a reliable quantum communication system that will survive the rigors of space travel. Why is that a limiting factor? And again, there's nothing about deep space travel in any of this. So it's kind of like I thought we were talking about technologies for deep space travel. So I'm not sure how these are related. If quantum communication is related, we want to know more specifics about that. Currently, the only way to transmit and tangle particles is via relay stations. Why is that a limitation? And ensuring atmosphere and cosmic radiation would not degrade the transmission signal integrity. Again, I'm thinking about the phase 1, which is focusing on research and kind of the creation of the infrastructure of the proposal. I'm not sure how that would how this limiting factors factor in. I'm just kind of, it's more of a slide of like, why am I being told this information and how does it connect to the overall proposal? So that needs to be addressed. Expertise required. I had a hard time reading the yellow font. So you just want to, I like the background picture. And I know you diminish the opacity a little bit in here, but you might just want to make all this black. And I think there's a color down here too that I can't quite see. Here's where I would put all of your names and give yourselves fake one of you is the physicist who has more than 10 years experience in the field research and has this PhD, right? One of you has PhD in this and you're an electronics technician, right? This is good. So I would say like expertise already, expertise already available. Don't need to pay for any of these people because these people would need a lot of money. Like if you only have $125,000, if you're going to pay a physicist who has a PhD with more than 10 years experience in field research for 9 months, we're talking well over $80,000 for this person, just for one person. And you've got a number of people here. So that's why I'm saying don't hire people. Just position yourselves as people who already work for the company, the BWXT. And then this is information that you want to flesh out way more. So I've already kind of talked about it in terms of having a source that's like available resources, which would include like yourselves as fake people who work for BWXT, any type of labs that you could use at BWXT, any type of equipment they can use, or blah blah blah, and then having a separate slide that is for materials / resources needed. So that might be that equipment cost. Again, we needed an itemization of what equipment you need. We need an itemization of miscellaneous items, and then that you could do away with. You're not going to hire all those people for that amount. They would never take the job. So this just needs, like, if I were NASA, I'd be like, okay, what equipment? We're going to give you, you're going to spend $40,000 on equipment. I need to know exactly what equipment you're going to buy. And then expected results. So here I would focus on, like, at the end of phase 1, this is what our project, this is a deliverable we anticipate providing at the end of phase 1 after 9 months. And then the benefits. I don't think you need to identify benefits again. I think I would just focus on at the end of phase 1. Like this, and again, this is vague language and there's no discussion of deep space travel. So it's just a matter of unpacking it and making it more specific. So that's why I said earlier in this feedback video that my main feedback to you was going to be about specificity. So because you're on the right track, there's just some stuff where it's either feeling redundant or you don't have enough information or the language is too vague, so I'm not sure what you're talking about, and maybe a little bit of reorganization is needed. Maybe some slides could be taken out and replaced with more meaningful slides, and things like that. But that is, I could talk about these things for hours, which is why I always have to cut myself short. But if your group has any questions about anything I talked about in this video, or need clarification or more clarification on anything I talked about or didn't talk about, please feel free to contact me. I will be looking into the group's team meeting minutes and your group's discussion forum, just to see how things are going. But otherwise, I will be talking to you guys soon. Okay, bye-bye.